Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Pro Wrestling Throwdown for the week of November 14th, 2020. Luke, the Big Dog Williams, to my left. Max Fury, our in-studio producer, to my even lefter left. I am Caleb Black, and it is time for the AEW pay-per-view post-show review for AEW's Full Gear.
Yes.
That occurred last weekend. We're going to get right into the results. We gave you guys our selections last week and our opinions about how the show was going to turn out. I would like to point out that while this show does not count 4 points, I did call one match correctly more than my compadre here, and it's the only match that you really, I can't believe you didn't call.
The only reason I went the way I did is because I thought maybe they were going to push John Silver. I really did.
No,
because he's been so big here lately.
He really has been like the backbone, especially on TV for the Dark
He
Horse.
out-wrestled the shit out of Orange Cassidy.
Well, everyone out-wrestles the shit out of Orange Cassidy. But
I mean especially in that match.
All right, so we opened up with the pre-show. Featured Serena Deeb defending the NWA Women's Championship against Allin Kay in a decent pre-show women's match.
Wasn't bad.
Serena Deeb is very athletic. She sells very, very well. And Allin Kay mounted what often... I don't believe that Allin Kay is as fluid as like a Thunder Rosa or a Hikaru Shida. But it was a good opening women's match set for the show.
Well, and here's the deal. We all know if she's going to lose the NWA title to anyone, it's going to be to Thunder Rosa because she's still in.
She's got to return, yeah.
So, I mean, it kind of takes the will she, won't she out of that.
Serena Deeb Allin Kay wasn't a viable competitor for the belt. They just had to get a match out there. So we open the real show with the number one contenders match right off the hammer, Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page. Former tag team champions, recently lost those belts to FTR. And now they are wrestling each other for the number one contendership to Jon Moxley's AEW title. And I was not let down by this match whatsoever.
No, the match was very give and take.
Very hard-hitting.
Honestly,
very athletic.
Both men you knew was going to come in and steal the show. And as far as I'm concerned, that's pretty much what they did.
Yeah.
Of course, we all knew that this is where the whole tournament and thing was.
Right, we all knew it was going to lead up to this.
But I mean, Kenny Omega pulled it out, which honestly, we both knew was coming.
Yeah,
we didn't figure Hangman was going to win the match.
And Kenny Omega, I mean, we're all of the mind that he's going to beat Jon Moxley for the AEW title, but it does leave an interesting room or an interesting space for Hangman Page to challenge for that title for Omega and then beat him for it.
Yes.
Which would be a great way to put Hangman over.
Which would play the whole build. Yeah.
Out of 5, I'm gonna give Kenny Omega and Hangman Page a 3.5.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5 as well.
Was a great opening match. They hit hard, they hit fast, they sold, they registered, they told a great story, and Hangman
finish was great.
And Page didn't kick out of the one-winged angel.
No.
So happy with it, 3.5.
Yep.
The second match on the card featured Orange Cassidy versus John number 4 Silver of the Dark Order.
Okay. Match was good.
Yeah.
Match was constructed well. Match had a good, strong start. The middle was great. The finish was great.
Yeah.
Like I said, I thought maybe they were going to go and give Silver the rub. They didn't.
Yeah.
But honestly, they built Silver like he was unstoppable.
Yeah.
They put over the heel heat really well.
They did.
Orange Cassidy with the punch at the end, sold fantastic.
Yes, he did.
I mean, all in all, the match was tight. The match was entertaining. It wasn't as goofy as you would have expected it to be. Solid 3.
The thing with Orange Cassidy is that we've seen the act already.
Yes.
He hasn't done anything different. It's always the hands in the pockets. It's always the slow shin kicks. It's always, well, he snaps out of it at this point, and now he's serious, and now he's going to try. I'm just not into it anymore. I wasn't even into it to begin with, but there was a brief period where he kind of got me a little bit, and I don't care about Orange Cassidy.
See, that's the thing I liked about the match with Silver, though, is they didn't play up on that as much as they did.
They did. They didn't do it the whole match, but he used the old tropes, and it's time for me. Orange Cassidy, I know, can wrestle. I've seen it. So for me as a fan, just personally, it's time to drop the gimmick, at least for a little while. Get in there, do some serious athletic competition, and then circle back to that wagon.
See, the only part of that I don't agree with is just, well, it's just that. It's no different, the gimmick-wise. Now, I understand it's a gimmick that he's doing this with. His hands in pockets to his kicking of the shins,
to
all of that is no different.
If you compare this
to the short elbow,
okay,
the Russian leg sweep, and the sharpshooter, it's no different. It's the exact same order of everything every match.
But it's the realm in which it works. The transition of movement were legitimate offensive techniques.
Agreed. But it's also the gimmick. It was the Hitman's gimmick to do those kind of things in a row. It's Orange Cassidy's gimmick to do those things in a row. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean that it's not the same.
Orange Cassidy versus John Silver gets a 2 from me.
I gave it a 3.
Because they can eat my wiener. Cody Rhodes defends the TNT title against Darby Allin. Now, this was the match of the night.
Yes.
This was the best match on the show.
Yeah, it goes without saying.
I'm going to give it a 5 off the hammer.
Yeah, 5.
And the thing about it is, we talked about this last week, we feel like the original projection for this was already Orange Cassidy winning the belt from Cody Rhodes.
Right.
So, in that regard...
I got this. Go ahead.
Yeah. In that regard, it served its purpose perfectly. The build for Darby Allin finally paid off. You know, the matches where he went to the time limit draws with Cody, the matches where he was not exposed, the athletic matches he had with Ricky Starks, all built up with this, and it was the match of the night, bar none.
Agreed. Darby Allin, like we have posted so many times, he is the epitome of the homegrown talent.
Yeah.
His fluidity is fantastic.
Yeah.
Cody playing heel against Darby Allin was fantastic.
Well, but he played a territory heel. He didn't get in there and play full heel. Yeah. But he roughed him up. He hit him in those hard spots.
Well, he started doing the push-ups.
Right.
I mean,
right. He was a Ric Flair going to a small Georgia territory
and putting over the guy there.
Putting over the guy there without going complete full heel.
Yeah.
It was done perfectly.
Yeah, no, it was done right. Darby Allin can take an ass whipping like no one I've ever seen.
He is bumps, insane to me. And he keeps on coming. He also, his cardio, he never gets winded.
No, he doesn't.
I've ever seen him blown up.
No.
Not one time. And we're talking, even in the matches where he would go, the 30-minute draw with Cody. Didn't miss a step, wasn't out of breath at all. Outstanding.
Darby Allin, perfect, like we said last time, perfect person to take that title.
And it was the perfect time to do it.
And it really was. Yeah. Now, what I could have went without was the interruption at the end of the match.
With Brian Cage and Ricky Starks.
And then Cody going back face.
Yeah.
It was too much.
Yeah. That would have been a really, really great time for Cody to go full heel.
Now, match-wise, though, we're not going to count that into the match. Match got a 5.
Yeah, match got
from bell to bell.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Segment afterwards sucked.
Yeah.
Hikaru Shida defends...
They can suck his wiener.
They can eat my wiener.
Eat your wiener, sorry.
Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose for the AEW Women's Championship. Man, they just couldn't figure it out.
Disappointing.
And the messed up thing is the match they had before where Shida beat Nyla for the belt was so good.
It really was.
They used Nyla's strength and her build and her stamina against Hikaru Shida's speed and timing.
Yes.
And it flowed so well. This one, they just couldn't get there.
Yeah, no, and you know what? It's almost like WWE circa like 2009 to 2013.
It felt a lot like Nia Jax versus Kairi Sane.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, it's more like you have such an extensive women's division.
Yeah.
That we don't need the same 2 people every week.
No.
Or every pay-per-view.
No.
Do something different. I'm begging you.
Yeah.
1.5.
Well, and they feature Shida very, very well as champion. No one can deny that.
No.
But I agree with that.
Give it a different challenger.
And then the after-match gimmick with Nyla and Vicky, where Vicky's screaming at her and Nyla's telling her to slap her. And it just all went to shit. 1 out of 5.
Yeah, I gave it
1 out of 5. Not good. Now we get to my personal match that I anticipated most. FTR versus the Young Bucks for the AEW Tag Team titles. The most anticipated tag team match in a decade. And it was very, very good. And it was very, very fluid until the last 4 minutes of the match.
Here's my deal with the match. I'll say this before you say this, because we are running short on time.
Yes, we
are. The whole thing seemed rushed.
Yep. The finish seemed rushed.
You
mean the program? But yeah, the program was rushed. Yeah.
And what took me out of it is the premise was the high-flying guys versus the ground and pound guys. And when Dax
hit the beautiful 450
springboard, but it pulled me clean out of it. It was like, that is exactly what you said you didn't do.
And then for Matt Jackson to win off of a super kick with an injured leg.
Yeah.
I give
it a 3.
I give it a 3.
I feel
overall, but yeah,
like I can't give it anything less than that because the match was
decent. The match was psychologically very sound and very good
until the last
4 minutes. Just man, that's where it lost the plot. Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara in the Ultimate Deletion or the Elite Deletion match.
I gave it a 3.
I gave it a 3. We don't really have to talk about it. It's an entertaining, off-site, cinematic match.
It technically wasn't a wrestling
match.
With
ridiculousness and fireworks exploding in a monster truck.
If you haven't seen any of the Matt Hardy deletion
then you won't really get it.
You won't get it. Go back, watch it on YouTube. For the 3.
For the kind of people who likes those things, those kind of things those people like.
Yeah.
And I'll give it a 3 as well for entertainment value alone.
Yeah, it was very entertaining.
Now we get to MJF versus Chris Jericho. If MJF wins, he gets a place in the Inner Circle. And I got to tell you, man, those two had a really, really great match. If it had been the third match on the card, it would have stole the show.
Yes.
But it was after 3 hours of watching wrestling already.
I was disappointed in a way because it wasn't a decisive finish.
No.
The Eddie Guerrero throw the bat to the guy, fall down, act like he got hit.
MJF didn't actually pin him. Which I kind of like because they can come back to that.
Right.
But again, had it happened third on the card, it would have sold the show.
Also, the way they had built that to where, you wanted meat and potatoes. You wanted something solid, and you just didn't get it.
Yeah, so
I give it a 3.
I give it a 3 as well. Not great. Very, very great. I mean, great match, but man, it was just so long after everything, and everything they did we'd already seen, and it wasn't special. The finish, I think, was the most unique part about it. Let's talk about the main event real quick before we run completely out of time. Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston for the AEW World title. Two guys who have traveled the world together, wrestled in CCW together, are hardcore, hard-hitting. In an I Quit match, you would think this is the perfect formula to be the absolute bloodiest, bangingest match on the card. And it went like 12 minutes with some weird spots, and then Kingston said, I quit.
I gave it a 3.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't give it a 3 because I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed the match. It wasn't great, but it was what it was.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like the fact that Eddie Kingston said I quit.
Yeah.
I think that they could have worked something out. They could have done something,
anything different than that. Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, Eddie Kingston is probably 3 times the wrestler that Jon Moxley will ever be.
I agree with that.
And for we'll get in more to it later, but them to turn him face after all that, I think is a giant mistake.
So do I.
Eddie Kingston's man. Also, one thing I am very upset about, and I'll air that grievance right now while we still have a little bit of time. He wore a Tracy Smothers shirt.
And they didn't even showcase
it or talk about it. And then they cut the whole thing where they talked about the thug spelling out, and they acted like that was Kingston saying, said nothing about Tracy Smothers. Yep. Shame on him.
I agree. I give it a 2. Wasn't my bag. That concludes our AEW pay-per-view post-show review of Full Gear. Let us know what you guys thought about Full Gear in the comments down below after you like and subscribe here at youtube.com/Pro Wrestling Throwdown. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Throwdown. Find us on Twitter at Pro Wrestling TD. Did I already do the email?
No.
Send us an email at prowrestlingthrowdown@gmail.com and find us every single Saturday starting at 12:30 on twitch.com/Pro Wrestling Throwdown. Stay tuned. Time to talk This Week in Wrestling, Part 1, coming your way.
Interwebs.